Also, look at how many people are in this room. And Jocelyn's online. And Courtney might jump on online later. And Mike showed up in person. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
You sent it virtually, so. But yes, welcome. There's a few people that haven't been to a coffee hour yet before, so at risk of continuing to repeat ourselves, Bars, do you want to give a little overview about why we started doing these coffee hours?
Yeah, for several reasons, I suppose. One is just to get all of our land stewards together and network and get to know each other's projects, build some connections there, but also share advice. We're all sort of doing the same things at the same times a year, usually at our different parks. So better working together and collaborating and sharing information than working separate. We're all battling garlic mustard right now, or moving into Dane's rocket, or some of us just want to know what we should be doing right now. And that's what we talk about, is the phenology of the weeds and what's the opportune time for working on certain weeds, or collecting certain seeds, or conducting prescribed burns, whatever it happens to be. We're all working together in a way in our respective parks. So great opportunity to get together, share information, and just network and collaborate. So we have some staff updates to share, several updates, but staff updates most importantly. Joining us today here on the table is Leah Kleinman, who just came in a couple months ago as our land restoration specialist, replacing Tom Klein, some of you know that has moved on. And I will let Leah maybe introduce herself to everyone.
Sure. I met some of you already, but nice to meet more of you today. My background is in restoration ecology and grasslands and oak savannas. I got my master's degree in forestry from Southern Illinois University last year. And I moved to Wisconsin just about almost a year ago now. So new to the county and looking forward to jumping in with these guys, and just excited for all the beautiful places I've seen so far and all the hard work you guys are doing. So I'm excited to hear more about it today.
Yeah, super excited for Leah to be here. She's going to be helping me out as well with a few things. That's awesome. Because, as you can see on the screen here, outgoing staff, Shayla Pence, who some of you know, she's accepted a position with NRCS with extension here, right? And so she'll be moving on to that sometime in mid-late June, unsure. So at some point, we'll be hiring her position, and if any of you know anyone who loves working with volunteers in this capacity and has strong computer admin skills, feel free to send them my way. I would be happy to have good candidates. But thank you, Shayla, for all of her hard work, and she'll still be around, but maybe in a little bit less capacity. So for now,
if we send email questions, status, whatever, that normally would copy bars and change, should we also,
Yeah, copy Leah.
Okay.
And you'll have access to her email, but when I send out the recording, I'll just include contact information. Yeah, good question.
So not to overwhelm Leah, but say hi to her before we leave. We should have time at the end to stick around and have some more coffee or whatever. So introduce yourself. And Leah's role will likely be much more public facing than Tom, who was very much a person that did a lot of great work in the background. Wonderful work, but Leah will be more active with the volunteers. So please include Leah in correspondences, reach out to her, and talk with her directly. Yeah, we're excited to have her aboard. All right, so just a recap. We just recently, maybe 2 weeks ago, finished our last burn. We had a great burn season, over 1,000 acres burned by our Dane County crew, and many of you folks that are in this room today helped us on those burns. 32 units, probably, I don't know, 20 to 25 burn days. I'm not really sure what it is. But we took advantage of most windows of opportunity there. It came awfully early this year. In February, we were ready to snow off and ready to burn, which caught us a little off guard and everyone else off guard as well. But we made the most of it, got some really key units burned, hopefully, probably in many of your parks. If not, we will likely be putting your park higher up in the priority list for next burn season as we try to get all parks and all burn units burned on a rotation without too much time in between for the brush and weeds to come in. Additionally, over 218 acres were burned by contractors or partner groups like the Ice Age Trail Alliance. So 1,200 plus acres, that's right close to where we were last year. Not quite a record, but really close there. We had 48 Dane County volunteers join us on burns. A lot of volunteer participation. That's how we operate. Half crew of staff and half crew of volunteers. However, this year we also had the Operation Fresh Start graduate crew, which is anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5 people, join us for 14 burns. So these are young participants that most likely finished the legacy OFS program and have gone to this advanced program, the grad program at OFS, and they have fire training, chainsaw training, herbicide training, and they're able to get on our prescribed burns. So it's a great opportunity, great experience for them. Really a noteworthy season. We had Leah aboard to squad boss. We had previous LTEs, Susanna step up in squad boss. So we're growing, our capacity is growing to get more acreage burned. And we're hoping in the not too distant future, maybe not next year, but sometime in the next couple of years, to have 2 full-time crews burning out in the park system to get that very important task done that we need to do, we can't get enough of. So we look forward to growing in that direction in the future. Questions or comments on burning before we move on?
Before the next burn season, sometimes we should kind of let people know again, like what sort of certifications they need to remind us of.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so the county is evolving in our requirements for volunteers. A lot of discussion on this topic over the last couple of years. Right now, we want our volunteers to at least go through our DNR instructor training, which I think many of you have already. Ralph Shepard's class, he's a DNR ranger and teaches a burning and wildfire suppression 1-day kind of 8-hour class. This is in lieu of needing to take the S130, S190, which is a much more intensive, longer term investment of time. So if you have that class, S130, S190, you are good to go. If you don't want to do that extended class, you can come to our 1-day training with Ralph Shepard. And then we're going to have folks very encouraged to come to our annual refresher. We want you to be there if you're going to burn with us. And that may be in person, or we may have also a virtual option for folks that can't make our refresher date. But the feedback from the crew this year and all other years was very valuable to have volunteers that joined us who had this refresher. They were more effective on the crew. They were more informed about how to burn, and they really fit in much better with our staff and were more effective and, yes, safer as well to have on the crew. So it's a balance, trying to make sure we have trained and ready to burn volunteers, but not having to expect too much of our volunteers in terms of training and requirements. So I think we're kind of finding that middle ground there that's going to work for everyone. What we've kind of Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so you're not required to get the S-130, S-190, but you prefer it?
You're not required. The 1 day, 8 hour Ralph Sheffer class is in lieu of that. So if you have the S-130, S-190, great. You don't need the other. But it's above and beyond required.
Just one of those.
Yep.
So for 1,200 acres this year, what's the candidate pool, I guess, of acreage? Like, I'm assuming not all 12,000 acres or whatever that the county manages is eligible, but is it like 8,000 or?
Good question. I think we have about 3,000 acres of burn units. Beyond that, we own 15,000 acres. So there's a lot of land out there that really isn't yet even on our radar for burning.
Okay.
It's not prepped enough yet. We don't have brakes around it yet. We don't have the proper equipment for burning those units. That acreage of burnable lands is growing and growing. But we're probably looking at about 3,000 acres of burn units in our rotation.
Okay.
Current.
So you're burning 45% of what you can.
Yeah, maybe a third of what we can every year.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
One thing we did this year too, we heard from a lot of people that they weren't able to get on a burn. It was hard. It's obviously the email goes out, and then there's the regulars that know to click on it right away. They have some sort of alarm set.
Yeah, they do.
Their radar. Oh, the burn notice went out with the sign up. I'm going to sign up. This year we limited it to one. If you sign up for a burn, it's once a week, and then you can't do any more. And that got a lot more people on burns, which was great. So that was nice, and got good feedback from that, even from the people that like to burn all the time. They were like, I'm glad you did that because it does make it more equitable. So I was glad to hear that instead of the alternative.
I have a quick question, please.
Sure.
Do you have any plans for any fall burns?
Last year, we got in maybe 3 days of fall burning, and we would like to continue to get in fall burns. We try to get every burn in whenever there's a window. So we'll attempt to do that. We are also very busy in the fall, as you know, with seed collection. But now our staff is kind of growing, and we've got more people that can prep equipment when we're collecting seeds. So yeah, hopefully.
I'm very happy not to be on a burn crew, just because I'm at an age where I think there's probably a lot of people older than me that are better fit to do that, but I do like to be available to help get ready or to mop up afterwards or follow up afterwards. So if there's training for those of us that are a step away from being on the crew, I think you would probably bring even more people into the fold. Maybe you don't need to, but I think I speak for Paul, and I know Mike and I, for we'd like to help, but we just can't. We can't help.
Yeah, that's appreciated. You were there after our Steward burn to make sure that log went out because it smoked up, and
well, yeah,
very appreciative of you to stick around.
Jacket Paul did most of that, but
Did you get the water bill yet? Huh? No.
I'll wait for it.
Yeah, sure.
That'll be a good thing to talk about more things.
No, I'm glad we got it out. That would have burned all week.
Moving on, move time. Upcoming trainings, other opportunities. We just solidified our next Certified Land Steward training date for June 13th. So Don, write that down. Sorry, yes. Yeah. And Beth too. And so if you know any other folks that should come through that training, anyone that's been helping you out on your properties, volunteer, regular, that would be great to share with them. We of course have a list of interested people, and I'll be sending out that email very soon here. The next chainsaw trainings, we have a level 1, 2, and 3 scheduled this year. The third one, or level 3 is new. But actually, I think these are all very close to full, if not full already. Our only limitation to holding more of these is funding, and the trainer. I can't pay him a certain amount over, otherwise we open ourselves up to bidding process. But these are becoming very popular classes and very well received. So Luke Saunders, our trainer with the Blue Heron LLC, he's great.
Do you have a waiting list for those classes?
Yeah, there's waiting lists for all of them. One thing I figured I'd throw in here, but I'm not sure exactly who it's for or what the end goal is. There's this nature-based solutions for wetlands and riparian areas webinar that James Broadseller from our department is hosting. It's a partnership program webinar, something about beavers and imitating beaver activities to then restore wetlands. So if you're interested, it's on our event calendar. I don't know if it's really applicable to you all, but figured I'd throw it out there. And then you all should have gotten this email, but our volunteer appreciation picnic, September 10th, is a Tuesday, I think. So save the date for that. Additional details to come. But they can all be found on the event calendar on our website if at any time you need to find them. I also threw this slide in here to showcase your all workdays. These can also be found on the event calendar. But this Friday, the 17th, we have Lower Mud Lake Workday by Kathy Keys, Prairie Volunteer Workday at the Heritage Center by Claire Carlson. Saturday, Donald, we got Liz and her workday. Sunday, Steward Lake, Mary. And Saturday, June 1st, Remnant Prairie Restoration Steward, also by Jack. So there's a lot going on. And there's even more than that just isn't shared. Folks keep it to themselves instead of sending it to me in the event calendar. So that's fine. They don't want volunteers. I'm just kidding. But that's pretty exciting. So, feel free to share these dates with people you know. We got some friends of Owen Park volunteers here too, Beth and John. So thank you for your efforts at that park, even though that's not ours in City of Madison. Still awesome. And then our upcoming work days, we have our weed removal work days coming up here that I need to announce. And the reason why I'm delayed on that is because Better Impact, our volunteer database system, which some of you will have heard about, and maybe some of you who haven't yet, is going to be rolled out. Yay! It's coming! Yay! I will be announcing in an email tomorrow. Look for it. You'll all be able to create your own volunteer accounts, have your own little profiles, be able to record your hours. You'll get slide, please, so you don't need to take a picture. This will come out to you.
She just wants proof.
Yeah, proof. This system, also called My Impact, will take the place of signup.com. So you'll sign up for things through Better Impact and not sign up anymore. Transitioning slowly. There will be a little bit of parallel usage as we transition here for a little bit. But hooray, awesome, yay, it's so exciting. We'll talk about that more. I'll show it more here, inject it into the slides somewhere. But we have Tuesday the 21st and Friday the 24th at Lakeview Hill, which is on the north side of Madison. Tuesday the 28th, Walking Iron Workday. That's a little different, but still similar. And then throughout June, May, July, or the end of June, all the workdays through there. I'm also going to throw this out there because we just got this email. Unfortunately, Canadian wildfire season has started. Somehow in May it started. But, Dane County tells us employees now that, we have to limit our exposure to bad air quality. So I can't, send out an email every time there's an air quality alert or let you all know, but just be mindful of the fact that as you're checking out the weather, as you're going to go work outside, if there's an air quality alert of 151 or greater, something deemed unhealthy, you should probably not work outside. You should probably not have your volunteer work days. You should probably cancel them. Unless you're going to have a respirator on and make all your volunteers wear respirators, which doesn't sound fun either. So, we're going to have to hold ourselves to these standards too, and probably cancel work days if this happens, because we want to lead the way in exemplary behavior. But just take note of that. We want you all to be safe and have healthy air quality in your lungs to be good and healthy. So we suspend our non-essential outdoor activities if that happens, and so should you. I'll send out something else about this, the wider volunteer network as well. I just haven't done that yet. So, there we go.
So we organize our work based on nature, what's going on outside, the chronology of the weeds and the weather and the seasons. And we burn when we can, and that's our very short fall window, and then our nice generous spring window for burning. In the spring and summer, we transition into weed season. Not that you can't also be doing some other things, brush removal and such, but this is the time of year, if you're concerned about invasive weeds, that you need to be paying attention to what you have and to work on it. So Claire mentioned our Tuesday and Friday weed work days, mostly weeds that we'll be doing this summer throughout the park system. And then as we continue in this slideshow, we're going to talk about the weeds of the moment, what we're working on now, what you guys should be looking at your parks, and how we can work on that, methods and techniques. All right, so I think everyone's familiar with garlic mustard, and pretty invasive plant. This is about what it looks like right now in its phenology. It's formed those saliques, the pods, where the flowers were. You can see at the top, there's some flowers dangling at the very top of that plant, still holding on. We saw some flowers still on at Donald today, but it's getting towards the end of its bloom, and those saliques have extended, and those seeds are beginning to form inside. I would say they are not ripe, they are not viable yet. They look like the image on the left of the unripe seed. It's kind of a flat, flimsy, kind of spaghetti noodle look to it. At this stage, there is still no viable seed in that plant. There's no need to bag it up and haul it off site. You can leave your plants, as long as the roots aren't smelling the soil to reroot, you can leave those plants out in the park without fear of any viable seed being left behind. When you have to start worrying about the viability of those seeds is when you begin to see those saliques bulging, like the image on the right. When you pick out, define seeds within that salique pod there, that's about the time. I haven't done any germination trials or tests, but if you pull apart that pod and you try to crush that seed, it transitions from a very watery, flimsy seed to a more doughy or firm seed at this stage in the salique development. That's the transition from non-viable to viable. So if you have garlic mustard here and now in your park and it looks like what's in my hand on the left, you are still good to spray it, to pull it and leave it in the woods, to mow it and leave it lay on the ground. But when you start to see formation of those pods with seeds bulging, that's about the time that you're going to need to start bagging it. Bagging is a lot of work. So we take every effort we can to try to avoid that by focusing our efforts this time of year back through the last month, doing everything we can to spray or mow or pull plants before they get to that stage. Questions?
So
yes.
I trust what you're saying, Lars, but are you absolutely sure that the energy in the plant isn't going to go into those seeds as they lie on the ground?
As it looks in my hand right there.
Right.
No, that's still a couple weeks out. It's not going to continue to form for that long. If we were right on the cusp where we got bulging seeds in that pod, I question we're right too close to be sure enough. So now is the time.
Right.
If you don't want to bag your mustard, now is the time to do something about it.
Yeah, we just bagged ones today, and we're at the stage.
Okay.
But I think both Jan and I don't trust garlic mustard. It's almost like super invasive. Like you said, if it smells the soil, those roots are just going to go right down.
Yes.
Well, that's my question about energy then. Like if they're at that stage and you do you even want to obsess about pulling the root? Because if they're biennial, right, or both those roots, like they put so much energy to make the flowers in those pods at that point. You just cut it. If you do just mow over time, isn't that probably?
Yeah. So historically, as I was learning about garlic mustard and invasive weeds, I was always taught never to mow garlic mustard just from sprouts. However, I think that has changed, and we are beginning to mow garlic mustard at this stage even earlier, and we've seen tremendous results just mowing.
Just to knock it back.
Yeah, you might tend to have some resprouting, and you can go back and hit those resprouts with the mower again, just like we have to do with parsnip, because they're not all exactly at the same stage. Some are a little further ahead, some are behind. So we have to mow it twice. Well, same with garlic mustard. If you get some resprouting, you can mow it again, but that's sure a heck of a lot less work than pulling every plant. So we send our crews out to do a lot of mowing. We're recommending our volunteers. Brush cutting, yes, with the weed whackers, with the metal blade.
What do you do with the plant? Pull it. That's in the woods, and you go back.
Yeah. What do you do? Someone knows.
Don't throw it on the ground.
Anyone else? Yeah. What do you do with it if you don't want to bag it?
Well, I asked you when you were out, and if you would address, I think we all know garlic mustard is allelopathic. And so that's always a concern of mine because that soil is so important. And I'm thinking, I'll stop there. Would you talk about that? Speaking of laying it on the ground.
I leave it behind as long as I'm not looking at bulging seed pods.
For seeds.
As long as the roots can't smell the soil and reroot. So we hang it in the tree, we put it on a rock, we put it on a stump, let it dry in the air. And it won't reach the soil. No bagging necessary. Jack says the plant is allelopathic. It exudes chemicals into the soil that help to deter its competitors, and a lot of plants do that. Walnuts, have the allelopathy, and buckthorn and such. I'm not too concerned about leaving a couple plants behind somewhere. The damage is already there, and I think it just needs to flush it out of its system over the few years. It degrades those chemicals over time. Sure, if you're really ultra concerned, you can bag that up and take it off site, but that's a lot of effort. That's a lot of work.
It seems if there's an area though that is really prolific, well, it's just covered with it. It seems that might be a place to bag.
You can do that if you want.
I have, and it goes so much faster without.
Exactly.
I would say the opposite.
Yeah.
I would say the big patches mow or spray, and the single plants are the ones you want to bag and tag.
Yeah, I've heard people say that you, by pulling, you've disturbed the soil.
Well, we're gonna get to that with Dane's rocket. Say that again?
Bag it and tag it.
The big
Mow it.
The big patches are the ones you're gonna either chemically treat or mow, and maybe the individual plants are the ones that you're gonna bag and tag.
No tagging necessary. Just take it away.
Oh, my.
You can hang them in the tree, whatever it is, but you know, you just don't lay them on the ground so they can't smell the.
So then maybe putting them, as you said, on a big tree stump is a good option. Rather, I mean, in the savanna areas, yeah, there's not a lot of middle-sized tree. I mean, there's some, but I wouldn't want to do that.
We do both. We hang in the trees, we put them on stumps, we put them on rocks. Just as long as they're not gonna touch the earth.
Well,
I just like to
on
look
the,
back and see the decoration I created.
And within a matter of hours, that plant is drying out. Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, can we just put them on like a burn pile? If we have like a lot, like we talked about a big patch, because you would just say last week you were just pulling them out. Should someone hypothetically go back and pick that up and put that somewhere else?
Not from last week. We're good.
Take a look at it. It seems like it's becoming a zombie plant where it establishes itself and the seeds and flowers start to tip up like that, then you might need to roll around a little bit to get those roots dried out. But yeah, think about your workload and what's worth it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna bag up an acre of garlic mustard because I'm afraid of a little bit of allelopathic chemicals exuding out of those leaves into the soil, because that's been happening for years on that site. And it's a lot of work for me to do that. I got other places I want to be.
Yeah, well, good point.
Fine, for sake of time, revisit questions later.
So, Dane's rocket is a relative of garlic mustard. It is also in that mustard family. It's got 4 petals, unlike phlox that has 5. It also these long sleek pods, as you see on that picture on the right. You can use that same visual of flattened, flimsy, noodle-like sleeks being unripened seed, whereas when they start to bulge, you can consider that to probably be getting viable. So look at those sleeks. As those flowers dissipate on the top and fall off, those sleeks are going to start to grow and bulge when the seeds are ripe. That indicates that anytime you cut that plant, you may be releasing viable seeds on the ground. Or if you pull that plant, leaving it there might be viable seeds in the woods. So one difference with Dane's rocket versus garlic mustard is it is a biennial or a short-lived grain. So it can live more than 2 years. Garlic mustard, to my knowledge, only lives 2 and then dies. So if you were to mow Dane's rocket, you may be helping to reduce seed set that year. You're hurting the plant, especially if you time it while it's flowering, but the root might come back the next year. Sometimes that's okay. Sometimes you've got a lot of it and you're not going to pull it all, or you're not going to spray it all because it's mixed in with really good stuff. Maybe mowing it is just your approach that you're going to take. Just keep it from forming more seeds and whittle away at it over time. This one is one not to let take control of your site. It can be equally as aggressive as garlic mustard. It's a little after garlic mustard in the phenology in terms of blooming, but as we've seen at Steward Park, it is extremely invasive when it's active. So take it seriously. And other techniques, since it's a perennial, the taproot is fairly substantial and you can dig it out with a parsnip predator. Spray it also with Garland and Escort together in a solution. What else can you do? Is that about it?
Yeah. Yep, we tried mowing it a little bit too, haven't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Question.
Yeah.
Pulling. So you kind of mentioned, it seems pulling, two things or three things. One is you create a heck of a divot sometimes, not sometimes, a lot. You're disturbing the seed bank in that hole, and sometimes big time. And when you're pulling, a lot of times you don't get maybe all of the root. It breaks, you can kind of see it. And so even if you get most of the root, those what you leave behind will that resprout.
I don't think it should. If you get most of the taproot, it should be able to resprout.
Oh, if you get most of the tap.
Yeah, that's the largest root. That's.
I know, and that's what kind of sometimes breaks at the end. You know?
Yeah, if there's just a tip left, I would not think of it as like to regrow. Typically, that's the same when you use like parsnip predator and spade something out. You're often cutting through a root and you're kind of leaving out a little bit behind potentially. And that usually works fine. So you're still cutting off like 90% of its resources, and it's unlikely to resprout.
Okay, that's good to know. But sometimes it breaks right at the surface almost.
That's why we love that parsnip predator. You don't have to disturb the soil, and you just sever the jugular.
Right.
As long as you get that crown, just get a little bit of the crown. The very top of the root where it hits the soil.
Yeah.
If you snap it above that, then that's gonna probably resprout.
Yeah, and I know that.
What Leah's saying is you get most of that.
Yeah, you get under the meristem that it grows out of at the top of that root.
That's helpful. Thank you.
That's a very good observation though about the disruption of the soil, the pulling. You know, people will often avoid herbicides, even gas-powered equipment, and they want to be kinder, gentler, and they're out there pulling organically. And I have a suspicion that garlic mustard is propagated to some extent by that disruption of the soil with a lot of pulling in thick areas. It almost looks like a little rototiller went through there. If it's a scattered plant out and around in the woods, yeah, that's not really much, but mowing or treating with herbicides, you're not stirring up the seed bank.
Just a quick question back to garlic mustard. Someone recently told me that if you get just an inch of the taproot, I always try to get the whole thing. I get frustrated if I can't. That an inch is enough of the taproot. Is that true?
Yeah, that's what Leah was.
Yeah, it should be.
Okay.
That's sort of what we do with parsnip.
Yeah.
You get the top inch or even a half an inch, and that's where the crown is.
The bigger the root, the more the energy, right? So if you get the biggest piece of the root in that top section, then the plant doesn't have that much energy to get all the way back up there, especially when there's all these other plants crowding in already.
You know, the parsnip predators, the parsnip seems to space itself out at least relatively easily enough to get in with the predator. But the Dame's rocket, the thicket of that with the basil leaves, like they're so intertwined, like I don't even know how you find all the tap roots and something like that.
Yeah, it's not rhizomious, so it's like not something to worry about like bellflower, bellflower, something like that.
They're so dense though.
And Leah threw this nice picture of what the Dame's rocket leaves look like. They're hairy stem, pointed serrated leaves, so things that look different.
Before we leave Dame's rocket, so like garlic mustard, the seeds are bulging, bag the plant.
So you could also cut off flower heads. If it's like singular or not that much, if you cut off the flower seed heads, bag those, you're not bagging the whole plant, and then use a parsnip predator to take the plant, kill the plant also.
Also, we just double checked on this. They only bloom once. So hypothetically, if you were to cut off the flowering head and not let it seed, that plant would die anyway, and then not be able to produce again. If you were cut for time.
The garlic mustard.
Dame's rocket.
Oh.
Garlic mustard is biennial, so that's probably also true. I think it does a little stage and then it flowers and that should be done.
Dane's
why
rock
they're
is like
marshmallow.
parsnip, it's not a carpet, like it only is gonna flower once. Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, it just can be alive for a few years longer before it does.
Oh, okay. So it's not gonna come back from this.
It shouldn't, according to my Google check.
Oh.
Even if it's a biennial.
Yeah, so a lot of biennial or even semi-perennial plants, they'll be alive for multiple years, but they'll only flower once and then they will die. So they're flowering at the end of their life.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow, that's really good to know.
I didn't know that about Dane's rock.
Yeah. Wow.
It's good.
So then why don't we
That's
just use a brush cut mower?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could potentially mow it and hypothetically it shouldn't flower again.
You can test it out.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a-
supposedly it shouldn't flower again.
I'll let you know. That's what we do in our land. We don't have a lot of it, but I just weed with it as it flowers. And, you know, I'll tell you in a couple of years how it's.
Well, in a couple of years, you
That's
might
good.
still have that patch, but that will probably be because of seed bank from previous
Right,
years.
right.
not
As long as it doesn't
necessarily
expand out, yeah,
individual.
yeah.
But then we'll be seeing the flowers.
Eventually, yeah. So it might be like, there would be like a lull of a few years of growing back with from seed, but.
Leafy Spurge.
It's just so everyone knows, you can always buy Parsnip Predator from Prairie Enthusiasts website, but shipping is expensive. Two Friends Nursery, Athena Salazar, and I have to pronounce her last name, on the east side here of Madison. There's some way you can buy a Parsnip Predator from the Prairie Enthusiasts and have it be delivered or picked up at her house, which nursery. I'm not sure how you go about.
Yeah, I just did that.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Well, just buy them online and indicate that you want to pick them up in Madison. And I think I called Prairie Enthusiasts and they made the arrangement or gave me her email address and we made the arrangement. But they're very much in tune with doing it, so it was easy.
Yeah, we're limited by the amount of predators we have just because they're expensive and we don't have enough of them and there's more of you than there are them. And so it really helps us out if you get your own and then we can help other volunteers who don't really know why buy their own have theirs. So thank you.
What was the name of your still the
Two ferns.
Same time.
So the Staines rocket, it'd be nice to see is there a hierarchy of how are given the time and of course how much there is on, you know, there's now cutting, pulling, using a Parsnip Predator. There's no best way.
Not necessarily, no.
And spraying too.
Yeah.
Spraying.
Depends on your circumstances that you have on your site. Depends on what other species exist in there. Are you willing to take collateral damage with spraying? Are you willing to take soil disturbance? How much do you have of the weed itself? Do you need to, hand weeding maybe not realistic when you've got a whole valley full of it, like at Steward. So
well, the slow part too is a predator. I mean, I was doing both. I was pulling and when every time I have to pick up that predator, it just slows me down.
Yep.
We're taking time and move on, sorry, Jeff, in
Yeah,
that
that's
conversation,
okay.
but good reminder that like if you all have these kind of specific site questions, you know, it's going to vary by site. I mean, ours and Shane, we're happy to meet you on site anytime and walk through those like very specific things, right? So.
So this is Leafy Spurge, which we have been spraying a lot of this week. What you see in the top left is what it looks like when it's flowering. It's got this yellow, sort of almost like a bluish green to the green leaves, and then it kind of transitions into yellow when it's flowering. I think the flowering stage is really distinct. I think a lot of people recognize that. What's frustrating is that when it's not flowering, it looks like the thing on the right, which looks like a lot of everything else. It's got these very thin pointed leaves. It's soft, but it's smooth. There's no hairs on it as opposed to like a goldenrod or master or something like that. If you are to break it, the most characteristic way to tell what it is by the milky sap that comes out of the stem or leaves. You will immediately see that if you break off any part of it. And the only other things that would have that would be flowering spurge, which has wider leaves and typically dry prairies, and certain milkweeds. But the only thing I think you would maybe mixed up with would be like world milkweed that have thin leaves and that kind of sap. But if you look up a picture, those are even thinner leaves, and you're not likely to see them overlap too much. So yeah, great way to check if you're going through the field and you see, flowering ones, but then you see some stuff around it, you're not sure, just break it, and you can see that white snap. We've been using method herbicide for this one, but I suppose you could also try to pull it. I don't think it pulls as easily. Herbicide is really the best technique for this one, and this is a good time of year to get it because it's flowering or earlier.
Very nasty one. You see it on the roadsides all around.
Yeah, I just noticed today.
Oh, yeah. Big cinnamon prairies. So
Once you know what every roadside thing kind of will haunt you.
Yeah, yeah.
The herbicide that Lee is talking about, though, it's really done a trick for us. We've tried other herbicides, and mixed results with this stuff is yes, the jam for sure. Have it, and spray it, we'll get you the right stuff.
Say this idea, but you can't like pull it or use a parsnip critter because it has such a big root.
Yeah, it would be a huge pain to try for, maybe you can pull out one baby, but it's once you hit a patch, you're not going to find that it's worth your time.
So not really visible right now. So the foliage, the trained eye. Birds with trefoil planted extensively along our roadsides, lawns, parking lot areas. We'll have really beautiful pea flower, yellow, low growing, carpet forming plant. The seeds are very distinctive. This bottom right picture there. And it is really tough to get out. It requires herbicide, milestone method. To treat this one, you really don't want to let it get away from you. Just go to seed or kind of form this carpet or mat over the prairie vegetation. Kind of think of it along the same lines as crown vetch, which is maybe this next slide. Same kind of form. Oh, there you go. Great picture. So it kind of sprawls laterally across the prairie and will smother. And then goes, since it's a legume, it's got a nice little hard seed. It's possibly going to stay dormant for quite a while in your soil before it chooses to germinate, as most legumes can. And it can be just truly terrible for prairie habitats and let get on these.
So I see it out there looking like on the left. Should we spray it then or wait till it flowers and then zap?
Spray it as soon as you can.
As soon as we can.
And then what we do, we use EdMaps. It's a phone app that has a GPS system, and we log it in EdMaps. And that phone app will take us exactly to that same spot in the prairie every single year to revisit that site and treat that site every year until it's gone. Even after it's gone, we still revisit it for the chance that those seeds can germinate. So right now, Leah is spending a lot of time revisiting sites that we whittled down, treated for 5 or more years, and there's still plants. Birds with trefoil, crown vetch, Leafy spurge, all require very regular examination of their site to keep habits.
I think that even though we're in garlic mustard mode still, I plan to hit this next week just because the grasses around it are starting to grow up, and I don't want them to get too tall and hide it. And while the plant's small enough, it's less spread to use. Try to hit it soon.
Also in sites where you possibly had it before, you know, the sprawl is larger, and so it's very, you know, distinct to see it. But just make sure you're going back and looking really closely, because the first few years when it's young, it's just kind of a single stalk or two, so it doesn't do that characteristic sprawl. The site that I was at yesterday, Tom previously killed all of the adults, which you could see the remnants of the like dead stalks there. But there was all the little tiny baby ones around, so you really had to look closely to catch those.
What's the herbicide for that?
That one we are also using method for right now.
Yeah, it's in the handbook, I think, to what the herbicide is appropriate.
If we don't know what's there, do we go looking for it? Or you guys know, where it is at Steward and you'll let us know? Or you want us to be looking for that when we're doing?
You know, we have a pretty comprehensive library of these populations, but we always are finding more. So if you see this stuff, you can always shoot us an email and be like, hey, Leah, I see I see crown vetch or leafy spurge. We know you have crown vetch.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I'd much rather hear about a spot that I'm already aware of than missed ones. So
yeah.
if you think we might not know it, please go ahead and let us know.
Yep.
I just don't even look in depth and through until we're going after clover or whatever.
Yep.
I think there is some there. You and I were walking through one with a bigger group. You might read some out, because I didn't realize that it was there.
I think you can pull it up on ISM Track, right?
So I'm gonna look.
Yes.
So you all can look, you know, as part of your Certified Land Steward training, right? You talk about ISM Track and what a useful tool that is, and ask that you all use it to document the work you're doing, because that helps us. We see what you're doing, you see what we're doing, ties our efforts in together better. If we see that you sprayed crown vetch, we don't have to go out there and spray it, right? So that's the nice thing about ISM Track. But you can also pull up those invasive species points, and I can pull it up later at the end to see, oh, is this in my park? You can see what is going on.
So you can search by the species in ISM Track?
I'll pull it up at the end.
Okay,
So
good.
I'll show you how you see that. But that's why using EdMaps and ISM Track is so important in a way. You know, we're not requiring you to do it, but it is important, and it helps us all in the long run.
Yeah, I just would like to learn how to search within it.
Before we move on to the so I'll slide up this one and go on. This one does start going to seed long before it stops flowering, so I just wanted to point that out. If you see it still flowering, don't assume that it's not going to seed. In fact, you can check, because it will flower like all summer long, but it'll start seeding by like early July sometimes, and that sucks. I try to grab the seed and take it away if I can, if it's a small enough site. So if you have the ability to do that, that would be great.
One more reason to get after those.
If you mow it, it will flower at that height.
Yes.
You want to take this one, Shane, or Leah?
I've also been spraying a lot of this week. This is also one that you can kill with method. Crown vetch. It stays low to the ground, so another one that's good this time of year to be going after it before the grass starts growing over it. It is also a legume, so it has these purple pea flowers in clusters, but it's not flowering yet, so it looks more like the image on the right. You can see I'm ready to spray it with my nozzle right there. And so it's got these large leaflets that are opposite to each other. They tend to be fairly rounded, with a singular white mane that goes down each leaflet. The only thing that looks pretty similar to it is Canada milk vetch, which is a native species which we like to have in our prairies. When they're really young, it can be frustrating, as Laura's mine found the other day. They do look shockingly similar. If you look up some images, typically milk vetch will have narrower leaves, but a little more point, and the leaflet, like the two sides of the leaflet, stay a little bit more closed instead of being fully open, as it is in this picture. And as it gets older, milk vetch will have a woodier stem, almost like a tiny shrub, whereas this will stay very viney and laying across the ground. So yeah, that's that one. And also great if you can hit it while it's young before it flowers, but it's much harder to find. So if you can get orchids to grow around it, it's a great time to do so. I would not target species like this with mowing because they are perennial, so they can just come right back, and they'll come back shorter and harder to see. And they will flower many, many times over.
Now, I can't tell the difference when they're young. That woodier growth, that's easier, but
Once you start taking over your prairie, you sure as heck notice it.
Yeah, if it starts getting really thick, it's probably not milk vetch.
And it grows tall, like really much taller than milk vetch, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah,
I guess it can get tall, but it also tends to spread at that point.
Right,
It'll
right.
spread out in a way that milk vetch will sort of remain like one or two sticking up like
Oh.
in this shape, whereas it sprawls out.
Like a bush, more like a bush and versus a tree.
Yes, yeah, milk vetch is more straight out,
Yeah.
whereas this is like it starts vining and kind of falling over itself and spreading out.
So if it's sprawling, it's probably
It's probably brown.
I think I got that.
And the flowers are very distinct. Nothing else has those flowers.
Ooh.
Positive subject?
Positive notes.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, weeds and seeds. So on the positive end of things, we already have ripe seeds forming. And as we found out yesterday at Dutchman's Bridges, they are mostly gone, even this early in the spring. We kill the weeds, but we have to replace them with something. So we are always on the hunt for whatever is ripe. These early spring blooming woodland plants, spring ephemerals, woodland flowers are already ripening. Trout lily, we've got some great patches at Yahara and Tomorrow's Country out there. Dutchman's Bridges at maybe at Steward, a lot of it at Walking Iron. Spring Beauty, a little bit in some parks. Bloodroot though.
Bloodroot, the West crew are out looking at harvesting it today. Still white, but not harvesting yet. But they're actually tying cheese cloth around it to catch the seeds. All right, with John. So maybe next week, Bloodroot will be ready to go. Your site might be a little different than Schumacher, so it'll be great to check.
Yeah, it goes fast.
Yeah.
We have all those U-line bags, those mesh bags we worked with a few years ago. Anyone wants some? They're somewhere.
Are they cloth to tie?
Yeah.
Are they at Libby?
They could be. Well, you know where they are. They were in our offices for a while. I'm not sure where they are.
Oh, yeah, those are like bridal bags.
Yeah.
So we've got that.
Bloodroot is, Leah, is this your picture?
Yes, so actually that's my friend mine, but that was taken last year on June 6th. And that was, they were picking it like as it was perfectly ripe, but you know, a day later and it would have been first, you know, lost a lot of the seeds. This was truly like the last second as it's splitting itself open. You can kind of see in the background is the bottom of a bucket, and it's just littered with seed that's first out of the pods.
So the pod will still look greenish and fading a little in color, and they'll start to crack open. You can test them here next, right now up until a couple weeks from now, but cracking them open, if they look brown inside, they're going to be good to go. If they're white, they're translucent, no, they're not quite ready. They have a little sugar packet attached to those seeds, like most spring ephemerals do. What's it called, a lysome or something like that. And that is a little incentive for an ant to carry that seed back to their nest. They eat the sugar packet, discard the seed in a refuse pile, which is also very nutrient rich, underground, and then the seeds will germinate. And that's how woodland seeds are often dispersed. A lot of spring plants do that. So What we do is disperse them ourselves. We don't hold them very long. They tend to go bad or go maybe dormant. I don't know what happens, but we will sprinkle them soon after we collect them. You all likely have bloodroot, maybe not the others. Steward has bloodroot, I'm sure. Yara has bloodroot. Just kind of wade through those big leaves that the bloodroot has, and you'll see these little pods sticking around. And that's what we collect in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, they don't just stand out on the plant either. Sometimes you gotta like really have to wade through the leaves to find the pods.
For a distance, you'll say, "Oh, there's nothing in there." But if you open up the leaves, there's these little treasures in there, ready to be picked.
It's them right away, like you can collect them
Yes.
in the same day.
Yes. That would be the best case scenario.
Any particular method for spreading them? Just on dirt?
Yeah, you just want to have them, sprinkled around, preferably somewhere where they contact the soil and not sitting on a bunch of leaf litter. But even when you do that, the ants might find them and take them somewhere else, which is good. Yeah. They germinate readily. The next year you'll see little bloodroot leaves, tiny little guys. They're not hard to grow. They come up very readily.
Is it hanging or is it?
Oh,
Wow.
It's just shorter than the leaves, so you have to underneath them.
But it's, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And is your preference that we harvest some to get to you, or is your preference that we just harvest some and disperse them?
Good question.
I would say that you could spend the wellness to it. Most of your parks, our parks are not loaded with that plant, so you got a nice patch in one area, take it to the next where it's fairly free, and go there and just distribute it. And
weed free is going to be a problem.
well, then you might want to bring it to us.
If you got a huge bounty like they do at Schumacher,
yeah,
we will
take it off your hand.
Very happy to split the spoils with you.
Spread some too.
Yeah.
Is Libby Road set up right now for seeds?
Today, hopefully the crew had time to get this set up today.
And the process on that is, you bring it to Libby Road, which you also have keys for. There's pools, kiddie pools, or smaller plastic containers you lay the seed out in, and a thick or thin enough layer for it to dry. You have a fan blowing on it so it doesn't molder. If you bring it in a bag and you leave it on the floor and we don't know about it, that's not good because then it'll go moldy. If you have a question about it, give one of us a call, preferably these guys because they know what's going on, not me because I really don't at this point. But yeah, make sure there's a fan on it, make sure it's spread out, make sure it's drying, make sure it has a label in it. There's labels there with the names of plants on it. If you can't find the label, make sure you make one so we know what it is. It's always nice if you know who it came from. You want to put your name on it, but that's not at all a requirement at all. But yeah, let us know you dropped it off if you want, and then we can thank you for it. And that's true of everything across the whole season. So until we get to the fall, the seeds will be coming in. So
does it like full sun, or is it more like where we see ours is kind of where we've cleared and right where it meets the woods, we've got a big branch. Is that because it preferred a little bit of shade and now it's a remnant of that?
Yes.
So it likes like a partly sunny, almost.
It likes to be under a little bit of camp. You're talking about black.
Yeah. So not full sun.
Not full sun.
Full sun. That does sound like a straggler.
Yes.
Hey,
yes.
the old days.
From the old days. We do continue to collect seeds throughout the whole summer. Of course, our big season is late summer and fall when we really get our harvest. But the other day I was out with our friend Mary Binkley at Yahara, and this reminded me, tussock sedge on the left there, a really nice meadow at Yahara. That will be another big one coming in here in the next month or so. The flowers are in the upper right of that picture on the right. Shortly after we've done flowering, those seeds will strip right off those stems. This particular plant forms these beautiful hummocks or tussocks, humps in the meadow that stick way up, and you'll see lots of different other plants that live at different altitudes of that tussock. Also in this plant, on this picture on the right, is a flowering stem of sweetgrass that is growing alongside the tussock. Just a fun picture to share.
The flowers are the Pennsylvania sedge. Puts up a tiny.
Very similar look, but just small.
Yeah. Is that, do you want that seed or should we just interseed that?
Yeah, we would take that.
Okay.
That's a hard one to come by, good one to have. So.
Pennsylvania sedge.
Yes. Hard seed to come by. You have a lot of them. I know you've got some patches. Yeah. I'm really excited to take some from you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think these folks would agree, like, weed season is the priority for staff and not seeds. And so, like, for any of you all that like to collect seed and want a break, weeds are super important for sure, but there's people that don't like to do weeds, so you can encourage folks to collect needed seeds and stuff.
And when is Pennsylvania sedge best to collect?
Oh, I rarely ever. You guys know
So it's
I think
starting.
it's flowering right now.
No, it is, I know
It's
that.
flowering, and then on some of those, you start to see it's almost the brown is on the, like it's the young plants are flowering now, and the plants that are a little bit older and have been around, they've flowered and they're now kind of starting to dry up, at least in the, and that might be because of the burn that went through. Things happened a little faster in the Oak Trail area, but it's there.
So, really good resource that we have on our website. You can just Google Dane County Plant ID cards. Susan Sanford.
Dane County what?
Dane County Plant ID cards. Yep. That's the URL, but that's going to be a hard one for me to remember. This is a really cool resource that Susan Sanford, mostly Susan, put together. Tons of native plants from our own pictures at different stages. So they've got flowering, they've got kind of a whole plant picture, they've got the picture of the seed from the Prairie Moon, really up close, right there next to the dime, and then a picture of the plant, what it looks like when the seed is ripe. And she's got a couple hundred species. This one happens to be Dutchman's Britches on there. Also a little bit of information about where they prefer to grow, how tall they get, all that kind of stuff. Check that PDF out online. We printed a couple of them, but they're very expensive to print. Very nice resource. Often we get the question, I know what it looks like, but what does it look like when it's ready to collect? This is one of the only guides that I've seen that's very comprehensive on all the different stages, even has a picture of the seed. So check that out. You can always give us a phone call and all that kind of stuff, but these are really handy little cards to look at. Depends on your site. Yeah. If you go back that one, Claire, just to the left of the little seeds, you see the dangling little green pods right there. Crack them open if they're not already, and if they look black inside, they're hard, they're ready to go. Our site at Mesorini was past prime yesterday. So depending on the location.
Yeah, that site is a dry site, and maybe you use a little more advanced, so you can still have some time to do that.
Ready after 2.
Well, it goes into it's a coffee hour, it's an hour and a half. 2-hour coffee hour, hour and a half coffee hour didn't really sound the best. So
You might need more coffee if we're going to go 2 hours.
we're not going 2 hours. 2:30 is a full stop. But especially near answer time. But I'm also going to pull up. I'm going to pull up Better Impact just to show you all.
Anyone have any lingering questions while Claire's pulling that up? Yeah.
I guess, since we're heading into, like, all the weeds are seeding, I was just wondering if you ever have thought about installing those, like, shoe brushes, entrances to parks and trails.
That's an Eagle Scout project. Or also, I think up in Sugar River Water Association, they had some grant funding at some point to do some of that. It's a park by park basis.
So if, like, I wanted to, like, make one my own.
Sure, you let me know.
I'm just thinking about something.
Yeah. And it would be like just make the ranger just like to know where it would go or something like that.
That's awesome. We regularly try to clean our vehicles and UTVs because maybe right now there's not a lot of ripe seed out there to carry around, but as the season progresses, vehicles get full of them and move around. So clean your stuff.
So
regarding Spurge, I had talked to Mary yesterday, so I was spraying a bunch of Spurge in the area, but there's some that are growing really close to these properties. One in particular is by someone's vegetable garden. I didn't spray it. I guess I don't know what to do. They have kids, they're up in the garden, and I smother it. I talk to them. What advice on when you have that transitional area between the property owner and you have a lot of weeds?
Well, when it's particularly sensitive area, it's nice to put a barrier like while you're treating, if you choose to treat, a nice cardboard box or something to block any drift or wind from going across the boundary as one method. And also to always use your signs. Whenever we're treating, we sign our herbicide application areas. Sure. Stumps, anything, we need to be diligent about that. We often get people that want to forage in our parks. They want to get nuts and berries and dandelion leaves and all that kind of stuff. And they want to know if it's been sprayed and they've got a right to know that. So always be upfront about your herbicide and we need to hide it. Just don't. Talking to those people is something that we can do if you'd like us to, if you don't feel comfortable about it. But it's a tricky one, Jack.
One of the possible solutions is something similar is biological control. I would pursue any of the other methods first. Especially plants.
Yeah.
We have a lot of burn piles. I don't know if you'll ever see a snowball that's more than 2 inches. Dave wanted to know if there might be an opportunity to burn piles at other times.
Yeah, so we, like much of what we try to do is empower our volunteers without and put down much needed rules and guidelines. So at first we were strictly, you have to have snow all the time in order to burn, right? That is still the best time that we would advise to burn. That's what we as staff burn. If people are particularly in a hard spot and can go through a few extra steps to become trained and informed, we have a route for people to be able to burn without snow. But that comes at the price of going through S130, S190 training and taking our land steward certification, which most of you have done, and going through our 2-hour certified burn training. It's not something that we're eager to hand out to everyone because we just so like having snow on the ground. Even for us, that's what we do. But we realized that like last winter was terrible for snow, except for 2 weeks when we had 2 feet of snow. And in the future, how much snow are we going to get? I don't know. So we do try to empower and provide these routes for people who are so eager to be able to get work done. But we also have to make sure safety is considered and people have the proper training in order to be able to do so. So if anyone's interested in learning more about that, we can talk about that option.
And the reason why this has been put in place is because snow wasn't always the mandate for burning piles, and there was several occurrences that warranted us to put this in place.
Whether it was an escaped fire, which has happened in a burn pile, or just too many issues with fire departments and that kind of stuff. So it wasn't just to be cruel.
And I think with one of those escapes recently, that volunteer made the poor decision to burn and then leave it burning and not have anyone on site, and then someone had to respond, and fire department, and that individual was issued a fine by the DNR. So you can have financial repercussions from improperly planned things like that, but just wanted to know.
Hey, think of all the habitat those burn piles are creating.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't like that.
I know there are a lot.
There are a lot.
And Lars, I don't know if you talked to Dave about this, but when we're cutting honeysuckle, is it work if we spray Roundup on it, or should we wait until fall?
But don't wait. You mean because of the time of year?
Well, it just doesn't seem to be very effective.
On the stump?
Yeah.
What time of year? Like right now?
Yeah.
It should be effective all year round.
Well, like right now, the sap is moving up into the plants and it pushes out the herbicide. Right? So it can. Once it's more established, like in the summertime, if you're cutting, it should work fine. But like in the early spring, we do say like maybe don't spend your efforts cutting brush because it's all the sap is moving upwards and it can make your herbicide less effective. I don't know, that's what we've said before.
I've never had it not be effective in the spring, but I've also done a lot more basal barking than I've done cutting stumps specifically. Yeah. It also may just take a lot longer sometimes of years than others because it's waiting to translocate it back down into the roots. So and maybe that takes a couple weeks sometimes. But I would also maybe recommend Garlon instead of Roundup, just because that's what I've had be effective in the spring before. Hypothetically, Roundup should work, but if for whatever reason it's not, maybe switch to Garlon instead.
I will say that like last spring, in this time of year, late April, early May, we had a brush cutting event along one of our fence lines at a dog park. And, we cut all the brush there, we treated the stumps, but everything grew back in the summer. So like that was not effective time to do that work. And it was a waste of herbicide and a lot of time. So unfortunately, there are times a year where it's less effective.
You're seeing resprouts from those stumps that you just treated?
I don't know. We just keep moving along. I don't go back but stuff that we did last year in spray seems to come up again.
There is going to be a massive seed source under those honeysuckle. So I just don't know if it's stump resprout or seed resprout is what's happening in your case there. Could be both.
Well, usually, even if we go through an area and we're very diligent about treating all the stumps, we still make an effort to come back in the summer and foliar spray because you just never kill them all, never find them all. You get the resprout or the seedlings coming up from the soil, just emerging from germination now that they have sunlight. So stump treatment is something that everyone should do when they cut trees and shrubs to make sure they're trying to kill it, but there's always the need to revisit, just maybe even multiple years as those seeds are flushing and those resprouts are being killed off.
It's hard not to think about the honeysuckle at this time of the year because you're killing all these Dane County because of their flowers. And then you look up and you see a 10-foot tall honeysuckle with 20 times the amount of flowers. And you think, oh, Christ, I want to hit that now. You know,
they're kind of giving you a signal there.
Yeah, yeah. Ignore the bloodroot seed. Oh, no. Ignore it. Just keep treating. Get more herbicide.
We only have 1 minute left, so I just want to quick show you guys this, and then we can end, and everyone can leave as they need. But this is better impact, or my impact on the screen here. This is the front-facing page. So you here, lovely volunteer, you. This is me and my profile. They'll show you, like, you know, how many hours you contributed. This year I've done 19. My lifetime, I've done 30. This week I did 0. That's sad for me. But you know, it shows you a little bit about Dane County. You can collapse these things if it has an arrow next to it. If you don't have Facebook, you can see what our Facebook posts are, which sometimes can be okay. I don't really use Facebook except for work, so there's always some interesting things on there. Jack's bluebird eggs, very nice. You know, like there's some fun things attributed to this. You can view our handbook and like other volunteer related files on this, so you don't have to like, it's all kind of a one-stop shop type of deal. The biggest thing though is that all of our opportunities will be found this way. We'll have the event calendar, of course, but you can view upcoming volunteer opportunities either by calendar, which is a new volunteer is nice. If they want to know if there's something on a Tuesday, they can go right there. Otherwise, you know, this is kind of just going to act like signup.com, except you have all the activities in one place, and you can just click on it. Oh, I'm interested in independently removing invasive tree brush. I'm going to go click on that, and I'm going to go see what that's like, and I'm going to sign up for it. These are all the weed work days. So if you want to go to Camrocks, click on that and sign up for it. You know, registering through this, making a profile is just like signing a volunteer waiver. It takes the place of that paper form. So less admin work on my front, which is great. This will hopefully reduce my time on the computer and expand my time out in the field with all of our volunteers. That's the goal. And there will be a lot more stuff added to this, but so far this is what we have.
We could make a profile now.
Once the email comes out and
okay,
you have the link to it and all the knowledge, then yes, you can please go ahead and sign up for the weed work days. Sign up for, you don't really have to sign up for these roles. One thing you can do is go into this hours function. This is how you report your hours if you'd like. So, you know, if you are Mike and you've done 500 hours of invasive tree brush removal at Silverwood, you just go in there and okay, you can't do 500 hours in one day, but you go in here and say, I did 5 hours on the 9th, and you can save and log another.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, right now the things that we have on there are just initially I need to get this out, but we're going to add more activities to it. So if you don't see something on here, like trail building, or you know, something that you want to record your time on, building a boot tray, you know, boot cleaner, like don't really email me about it right now at this moment because it's probably coming. We'll get there. The nice thing about it too is that if you need a record of your hours for any reason, you can go to reports and pull your own hours, and it shows you all of that. And this act a little bit different if you're part of a friends group. This is like really a good thing for individuals. Friends groups are made up of individuals, and we can pull reports for everyone that way. So Friends of Steward, you can like pull your hours conglomerately. In the future, hopefully sooner rather than later, people will have limited admin roles, so you can go in and kind of pull reporting for yourself a different way. Anyway, so I just wanted to quick share that because it's exciting, and you all get the first taste of, well, first taste of knowing you can sign up for this so soon.
So is this in addition to or in place of ISM?
This is an addition to ISM Track, because ISM Track records the land management activities, right? It shows us on a map what you did. It stores your herbicide records so that we don't have to email you, and ask for your herbicide if we get like some park user saying, hey, someone was spraying here, but there's no sign. What was sprayed? We don't know if we don't have ISM Track records, or you emailed us immediately after you sprayed. So, but what you can do is, and programs don't talk to each other, unfortunately, right? But if you're putting something into ISM Track, there's an app-based version of it on your phone. There's an app-based version of My Impact on your phone. You can, go in and copy and paste that number, or just simultaneously go in and say, I did 5 hours of tree and brush removal. Or if you don't want to do that at the end of the year, if you put it into ISM Track, I can pull a report as long as all the information is correct. I can pull that report and plug your hours in for you. That's obviously more work on my end. It really helps me out to do this simultaneously.
So then this takes the place of the sign-up sheets you sometimes bring around to.
Yeah, so, right. If we ask you to sign in to a sheet on a work day, just because we don't know, like on prescribed burn, if everyone's a registered volunteer. If you sign up for prescribed burn on Bear Impact, we know you're a registered volunteer because you went through Bear Impact to sign up. So for folks, you all hosting like chainsaw work days, we can set on that activity that you have to have chainsaw certification to sign up for that activity. So you know that anyone who signed up as that kind of volunteer at your activity has chainsaw certification. You don't have to be worried about that, which is a question that people have. So,
what about the volunteer? We've talked about this before, the volunteer work days where people come from different places.
They sign up ahead of time.
They need to sign up ahead of time.
Ideally, they sign up ahead of time.
And then they're registered.
Yeah. Yeah. We can talk about that offline. I just want to give a taste. Yeah. We'll have sessions where like we can have question and answer sessions about all this stuff. I'll be announcing that as part of this. But I just want to give you all a little flavor, spice.
Claire, can you let people know, or I can say that now we can register in ISM Track if our name previously didn't.
You mean Better Impact?
No, I mean ISM Track because that came up. So for a while it was hard for us to get our names into ISM Track.
Yeah, now you just you'll get Leah and I have admin rights. We can add people directly to our sites on Better Impact or ISM Track.
Okay.
Since Ann Pierce left, we've had transition staff running that program through UW. We're just taking them out of the equation, and we'll be directly importing people.
Great.
Thank you all. Thanks, Jocelyn. We're still staying. Have a good one.